Michal, and welcome to the Data Science Conference Europe 2022 in Belgrade.
Thank you so much.
With your experience as research scientist, could you elaborate a bit more on how data came to be one of the factors that dictates which games succeed, which ones will not, and even be able to decide within company leadership what prototypes might get published? And after that, could you tell us whether that's a good thing or a bad thing?
All right, so yeah, I'll be talking probably a little bit from perspective of marketing, as I've been recently working in marketing. But well, essentially, what's just I guess lots of amount of data that is accessible these days. You can basically early on during game development, you can already analyze and get some numbers, whoever like. Basically, the main thing is whether the game is profitable. Of course, I mean, most of the game studios, I believe, they just want to produce, first of all, fun games that they like, first of all, but also the user would love. So, but on the other hand, in the end of the day, this decision is also driven by profitability. So, I mean, there are various things you can track, well, like, I don't know, retention, so like basic metrics versus like whether users, how long they stay in the game, how long they're active. And also in the end of the day, since we're in this free-to-play business, whether users spend money in the game so that to make it profitable, and also to make marketing profitable, so that whether you can, via ads, you can actually boost up the revenue or not. So, I guess this is just accessible, like because the data is more accessible, you can early on just basically say that whether the game you expect it to be profitable, and hence this is why this development becomes sometimes a bit brutal when you have to kill a newly development game because it's kind of clear that it cannot be profitable.
Yeah, and going more into a bit game development, what are the opportunities that you see that are being opened up by big data and AI in this field?
Well, so there are a couple of things. So one is like for data science, for like data analysis. Although, I mean, it's not like, I guess it's still, although most of the tools we're using are not, let's say, extremely new, I think there's still some research in like this area of, I don't know, predictive modeling and stuff like this. So that predicting user behavior and stuff like that. On the other hand, which is the new thing, which is kind of new, and it's also changing fast, are this like all these kinds of generative models for like generating images from sentences and stuff like that, which is maybe not really production ready at this point, but at some point could be used also help a lot the game developers, game artists. I'm not sure if it's there yet in terms of like if it's really production ready, but we're kind of close to this, and as well as maybe reinforcement learning. So basically training AI bots to play the game without really any supervision, which is quite a cool thing. I think it's still it's still not production ready, but in a couple of years it might change, I believe.
And in a field such as game development, there are many possible data points to aggregate and to read from. So how can we decide what to focus on, and how can we prioritize between data sets within this field?
You mean data sets between like metrics or maybe some segments of users? If you
mostly like metrics, let's say.
Let's see. Well, there's clearly like in game development, there's clearly like a lot of this domain knowledge that's kind of reused. So it kind of there are a couple of key metrics that you always track. And how it came to be like this. No, sometimes it's really so it's not always easy. Sometimes there is also you can have infinitely many like insights in the data, but I guess it's kind of become quite standard in industry. There are like a couple of metrics that are key to your game. So this kind of like the basic thing that you take. And then, I'm not really have like a particular answer to this. And there's also a particular project where kind of, for instance, when you have some strange user behavior, I don't know, users suddenly become less active, then you have to really to dig through it. So it's not really something that you can say, a priori, I'll be doing this. Is just digging through the data really and trying to, like find, for instance, some segment of users. Maybe this will be some country or platform that is particular where the problem is, and it's sometimes you might find a bug using this, or just basically maybe some other reason that's like causing problems in this small segment of user. But unfortunately, I don't really have like algorithm for doing this. It's just like you get it with some experience, and sometimes it's even too hard to really find out what really happened. So it's still like open area.
Yeah, an open and exciting area, I suppose. Going a bit from the data to models, and prediction is one of the key uses for data. So could you tell us a bit more how reliable these predictive models actually are, and to what extent can they influence game development, game marketing?
Right, so I think these predictive models are mostly, at least in the early stage of game development, are mostly used for marketing. So it's kind of profitability of a game is closely related to marketing these days. So it's mostly used by marketing teams, which is either predicting some user activity, like revenue that some group of users will generate. So you said how reliable these models are. Well, it's generally very hard, this prediction. So that, for instance, LTV prediction is a very hard problem. But if you say enough, if you take your sample of users is big enough and you just predict, let's say, average LTV after some point in time, then you can have some reliable predictions, so up to like a couple of % of relative error already after, let's say, 2 weeks after the registration, after app install, which is great. But on the user level, it's kind of still, I would say, a very open and difficult problem.
And going a bit further afield into the future, I know it's a bit outside of your area, but what kind of games do you think mobile players will be playing in the next few years, judging by what you've heard and what your colleagues might be saying?
I really don't know. So it's more like, I'm not sure. So I'll try kind of, since I don't really have like a smart answer to this, I'll kind of avoid it and just to say that I'm not sure whether it's so much genre related, because from time to time there are some like examples of games that are like, something completely new, different. There's basically a new genre for itself, and it seems to be more about game mechanics. And it's really hard to predict, I would say. It's not even that much, I would say, data related, because data is one thing. When you have already a game that has a lot of users, then you can, of course, do all kinds of data analysis. But it's mostly about some also, like really creativity. So I think it's quite often mostly about game mechanics and genre. I wouldn't say, I would expect it to be maybe something, may come up in 1 or 2 years that's completely new genre. Some games are completely different, but it's successful simply because it brings in some interesting mechanics. So it's really hard to predict, for me at least.
No. Well, thank you for this interview and thank you for sharing your experience with us. And I do hope you're having a good time at the conference so far.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Welcome to Data Science Conference Europe. My name is Michal Warchalski and I work as a data scientist at Nordeus. Let's change the world through data.